The auction block. The chrome platform beneath Juniper Reed's bare feet hummed with alien energy, sending vibrations through her bones that made her teeth ache. She stood with her head high, emerald eyes scanning the grotesque crowd before her, with the defiant calm that came from having nothing left to lose. Her copper-red hair fell in waves down her back, the only thing they'd allowed her to keep from her old life, besides the rage burning in her chest. The auction house stretched like a twisted cathedral, its ceiling lost in swirling purple mist, dotted with bioluminescent creatures. Beings from across the galaxy filled the tiered seats, their various appendages waving credit chips and rare metals. Some had too many eyes, others had none at all, relying on other senses to evaluate the merchandise. "Lot 937, boomed the auctioneer, a gelatinous creature whose voice emanated from speakers embedded in its translucent flesh. Fresh from the ruins of Sol 3, commonly known as Earth. Notice the excellent musculature, the unusual pigmentation, and the complete lack of genetic modification. Pure baseline human, extremely rare since the planetary subjugation." Juniper's jaw tightened at the casual mention of Earth's fall. She'd been off-world when it happened, working on a deep space communications array that suddenly went dark. When she woke up in the slave pens, they told her Earth was under hegemony control. Every human now property of whoever could afford them. But Juniper knew something they didn't. The quantum-encrypted message hidden in her neural implant still pulsed with a familiar rhythm. Her brother Ezra was alive, hidden on Earth's moon, and he was coming for her. In the front row, a creature that looked like a walking obsidian statue hummed with interest. "What skills does this specimen possess?" Its voice sounded like grinding stone. The auctioneer consulted its datapad. "Engineering background specializing in quantum communications and neural interfaces. Also shows remarkable combat aptitude and problem-solving abilities. Previous owner noted unusual resilience under stress." A ripple of excitement went through the crowd. Engineers with combat training were valuable, especially ones who understood human technology. Several bidders leaned forward, their alien features twisted. "With avarice. Starting bid is 75,000 credits, the auctioneer announced. Juniper watched the numbers climb on the holographic display above her head. 100,000. 150,000. The obsidian being and a floating cloud of silver particles with eyes suspended within. It were driving up the price. Then a new voice cut through the chaos, deep and commanding with an accent that sounded like distant thunder. 500,000. The auction hall fell silent. All eyes turned toward the speaker, and Juniper felt her breath catch in her throat. He was massive, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like an oil slick on water. His face was vaguely insectoid with compound eyes that glittered like black diamonds. "Warlord Tharix of the Crimson Arenas," someone whispered. "Champion Maker." Juniper had heard that name before, whispered in fear by the other slaves. Tharix owned the most famous gladiatorial arenas in the galaxy, where beings fought to the death for the entertainment of billions. "Sold to Warlord Tharix for 500,000 credits, the auctioneer declared as the platform began to lower. Juniper kept her eyes on Tharix. He was studying her with the intensity of a collector examining a rare specimen. When their eyes met, she didn't look away. If she was going to be sold like cattle, she'd at least show them she wasn't broken. As the guards fitted her with neural restraints, Juniper felt the message from her brother pulse once more. "Hold on, Junie. I'm coming for you. When the moon turns. Red, be ready to run." Blood and circuit. The Crimson Arena pulsed with the roar of 10,000 alien spectators, their collective bloodlust hanging in the air like a physical force. Juniper Reed stood in the holding cell, breathing deeply as she examined the crude weapon they'd given her. Little more than a sharpened piece of metal attached to a handle. Her opponent would likely have something similar. Warlord Tharix believed in what he called beautiful simplicity for newcomers. 3 weeks had passed since the auction, 3 weeks of brutal training, minimal food, and nights spent staring at the ceiling of her cell, counting the seconds until Ezra's promised rescue. The neural restraint collar around her neck pulsed with a soft blue light, monitoring her vitals and preventing escape attempts. "First fight jitters, human." The gravelly voice belonged to Dawn, a reptilian guard with scarred scales and surprisingly kind eyes. He'd been almost decent to her, sometimes sneaking her extra rations when no one was looking. "I'm fine, Juniper," replied, rolling her shoulders. "How many humans has Tharix put in these fights?" Dawn's vertical pupils narrowed. 17. None have survived more than 3 matches. "Then I'll be the first," she said with more confidence than she felt. The door slid open and the roar of the crowd intensified. Juniper stepped out onto the sand, blinking in the harsh artificial light. The arena was a massive circle surrounded by force fields that glowed with iridescent energy. Above, Warlord Tharix sat in an ornate viewing box, his shifting skin reflecting the light like polished metal. Across the arena, another door opened, and Juniper's opponent emerged, a hulking creature with grey, leathery skin and 4 arms, each ending in curved claws. It bellowed, beating its chest as the crowd cheered. "From the dust of conquered Earth," boomed an announcer, "a fragile human female facing certain death, and her opponent, the undefeated Crusher from Zorax Prime, Crudge the Mangler." Juniper's mind raced, analyzing the creature's movements. It was powerful but slow. The crowd expected a quick, bloody spectacle. They would be disappointed. When the signal came, Crudge charged. Juniper waited until the last possible moment before diving to the side, rolling across the sand with practiced precision. Her years working in zero-gravity environments had given her a unique understanding of momentum and balance. She slashed at the back of Crudge's knee as she passed, drawing first blood. The crowd's jeers turned to murmurs of surprise. Meanwhile, Theatu 400 kilometers away, Ezra Reed hunched over a makeshift console deep within the abandoned lunar research station. His fingers flew across holographic interfaces as he worked, surrounded by scavenged alien tech and human computers cobbled together in brilliant improvisation. "Almost there, Uni," he whispered to himself, his gaunt face illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. The moon base had been Earth's first line of defense during the invasion, and its first casualty. But the hegemony had made a critical mistake. They'd left it intact after disabling its weapons, using it instead as a relay station for their communications network. They never imagined a single human could survive there, hiding in maintenance. Tunnels stealing power from their own systems. Ezra hadn't just survived, he'd thrived. The same neural interface tech that the aliens had implanted in his sister gave him an edge. He could literally plug his consciousness into their networks, becoming a ghost in their systems. "Got you," he breathed as a new data stream appeared. On his screen, biometric readings from the Crimson Arena, including a familiar neural signature. "Hold on, sis." Back in the arena, Juniper dodged another attack, her smaller size and quickness keeping her alive. She'd scored several hits, but Crudge seemed barely affected. The crowd was fully engaged now, some even cheering for the persistent human. Juniper felt a shift in the air before she saw the attack coming. She tried to dodge, but one of Crudge's claws caught her arm, tearing through skin. Pain exploded along her nerves, but she gritted her teeth and used the momentum to drive her weapon into the creature's side. Crudge roared in pain, black ichor spilling onto the sand. Juniper pulled back, her weapon dripping with alien blood, her own crimson life, fluid streaming down her arm. In his luxury box, Warlord Tharix leaned forward, his compound eyes fixed on the human. This one was different. This one might last. On the moon, Ezra smiled grimly as he began the final sequence of his program. The lunar override was nearly complete. Soon, the moon itself would become his weapon and his sister's salvation. Phase 1 complete, he whispered. The revolution begins at moonrise. The ghost in the system Juniper's third victory in the Crimson Arena left her bloodied but standing. As medics applied healing gel to the gash across her ribs, Warlord Tharix himself approached her holding cell. His skin rippled with shades of amber and gold, colors Juniper had learned indicated pleasure in his species. 3 fights, 3 victories, Tharix said, his multiple arms folded across his chest. You're becoming quite popular with the audience, human. The betting pools have never been so active. Juniper remained silent, her eyes fixed on a point just past his shoulder. She'd learned that engaging with Tharix often led to special training sessions for particularly promising fighters. I'm moving you to the premium quarters, he continued, unperturbed by her silence. Fighters who survive this long earn certain privileges. The premium quarters meant better food, actual beds, and most importantly, access to the recreation area where fighters mingled. Juniper had been hoping for this opportunity since her arrival. Information flowed freely among the gladiators, away from the guards' watchful eyes. "Thank you, Warlord," she said, keeping her voice neutral. Later that evening, in her new quarters, Juniper pressed her forehead against the small viewport that offered a glimpse of space. Somewhere out there was Earth, and on its moon, her brother. Worked tirelessly to free her. The thought gave her strength. The recreation area buzzed with subdued activity, aliens of various species conversing in small groups, exercising or simply resting. Juniper headed for the far corner, where a willowy, blue-skinned being sat alone, methodically sharpening a practice blade. "Mind if I join you?" Juniper asked. The alien looked up with pupil-less silver eyes. "The famous human survivor. I am Prel," she said, her voice melodic despite the translator's mechanical edge. "Juniper, I know who you are." Prel gestured to the empty space beside her. "Your strategy against the Mantics yesterday was unexpected. Most fighters would have attacked the thorax." "Most fighters would be dead," Juniper replied, sitting down. "I needed to disable its sensory organs first." Prel nodded appreciatively. "You fight with your mind. Rare in this place." As they talked, Juniper subtly steered the conversation toward the arena's security systems. Prel, a former security specialist before her capture, proved to be a wealth of information. "The neural collars are linked to a central hub," Prel explained quietly. "During system maintenance cycles, there's a 3-second delay before the backup protocols engage." "When is the next maintenance cycle?" Juniper asked, trying to keep the eagerness from her voice. "Tomorrow, during the Champions match." Meanwhile, on the lunar base, Ezra had made a breakthrough. After weeks of cautious probing, he'd finally accessed the hegemony's primary defense network. His makeshift command center hummed with activity as he navigated the alien system architecture, leaving ghost programs behind, digital sleeper cells waiting for his activation signal. Ezra's body was a testament to his determination. Thin from rationed food, pale from lack of sunlight, but his eyes burned with fierce intelligence. The neural interface port at the base of his skull glowed faintly as he connected directly to the system, his consciousness extending into the digital realm. Within the network, Ezra moved like a phantom, bypassing security protocols and evading detection algorithms. The hegemony's systems were advanced but predictable, designed to repel brute force attacks rather than the subtle infiltration techniques he employed. He'd discovered that the moon's massive communication array, originally built by humans for deep space research, had been repurposed by the hegemony as a control hub for their entire Sol system operation. This included the Crimson Arena's security systems, which received regular updates and commands through the lunar relay. "Perfect," Ezra whispered as he planted his final piece of code. The lunar override was almost complete. When activated, it would transmit a cascading disruption signal through the hegemony's network, temporarily disabling every connected system, including the neural collars and security doors at the arena. Back in the recreation area, Juniper had formed a small alliance with Prel and 2 other fighters, Grax, a 4-armed former engineer with stone-like skin, and Venny, a feline creature whose species was known for extraordinary speed. "Why risk helping me?" Juniper asked. "Them," Grax's gravelly voice rumbled softly. "Because in 3 years you're the first to offer a real plan instead of desperate suicide." "When the systems fail," Venny added, her whiskers twitching nervously, "we'll have less than 5 minutes before emergency protocols activate." 5 minutes is all we need," Juniper assured them, thinking of her brother's message. "When the moon turns red, be ready to run." As she returned to her quarters that night, Juniper noticed something different about the viewport's view of space. For a brief moment, Earth's moon seemed to pulse with a faint red glow, so subtle it might have been her imagination. But Juniper knew better. Ezra was ready. Tomorrow, during the Champions match, when all eyes were on the arena and the systems underwent maintenance, the ghost in the system would awaken. and the Crimson Arena would see a different kind of blood spilled. Lunar Override, the Champions match, was the pinnacle of the Crimson Arena's entertainment calendar. Spectators from 17 star systems had traveled to witness the event, filling the massive Colosseum to capacity. Holographic displays projected the arena floor to billions more watching across the galaxy. For the hegemony, it was a demonstration of their power. The subjugation of lesser species transformed into spectacular blood sport. For Juniper Reed, it was the day of reckoning. She stood in the preparation chamber, methodically checking the armor they'd provided, a mockery of protection designed more for visual appeal than actual defense. Her opponent would be Dravax the Undefeated, the arena's reigning champion for 3 consecutive cycles. No one had lasted more than 4 minutes. Against him, "You don't have to fight," said Dawn, the reptilian guard, his voice unusually soft. "No one would blame you for forfeiting." Juniper gave him a measured look. "And what happens to forfeiting fighters?" Dawn's scales shifted uncomfortably. "They become entertainment of a different kind." "Then I'll take my chances in the arena," she replied. As Juniper waited for the signal to enter, she discreetly touched the neural collar around her neck. According to Prell, the maintenance cycle would begin exactly 12 minutes into the match, assuming she could survive that long. The massive doors opened, and the roar of the crowd washed over her like a physical force. Juniper stepped onto the sand, squinting against the bright lights. Across the arena, another door opened, and her opponent emerged. Dravax was a nightmare made flesh, 3 meters tall with obsidian skin that seemed to absorb light. 4 massive arms ended in razor-sharp claws, and his face was a mess of tusks and glowing red eyes. His neural collar was ornamental only, a symbol of his status rather than a restraint. Champions earned certain freedoms. In his luxury box, Warlord Tharix stood, raising all 4 arms to silence the crowd. "Today we witness the ultimate test. Will our human sensation prove that her species deserves more than extinction, or will Dravax add another skull to his collection?" The crowd erupted again as Tharix gave the signal to begin. On the lunar base, Ezra Reed initiated the final sequence of his program. His hands flew across holographic interfaces, his neural connection, allowing him to process information at superhuman speeds. Years of planning, months of infiltration, all culminating in this moment. Lunar Override activating in 3, 2, 1. The moon's massive communication array, hidden on the far side from Earth, began to glow red as it channeled enormous power into Ezra's carefully crafted signal. The hegemony had upgraded the array with their technology, never imagining it could be turned against them. In the arena, Juniper dodged Dravax's first attack, a sweeping blow that would have taken her head off. She countered with a strike to his lower leg, but her weapon barely scratched his armored hide. This wasn't about winning, it was about surviving long enough. 8 minutes into the match, Juniper was bleeding from multiple wounds, her breathing labored. Dravax toyed with her now, performing for the crowd. She glanced at the chronometer embedded in her armor. 4 more minutes. In the recreation area, Prell, Grax, and Venny positioned themselves near the security doors, waiting. Throughout the station, other fighters they'd recruited did the same, each group assigned to different escape routes. 11 minutes into the match, Juniper stumbled, genuinely exhausted. Dravax approached slowly, savoring the moment. The crowd chanted his name, eager for the killing blow. 12 minutes. Juniper braced herself, watching the faint indicator light on her neural collar from the corner of her eye. On the moon, Ezra executed the final command. "Override, now!" The lunar array flashed brilliant red, visible across half the galaxy. A pulse of energy shot outward, carrying Ezra's code through the hegemony network. In the arena, every light flickered simultaneously. The neural collars beeped once and went dark. The force fields containing the fighters shimmered and failed. For 3 heartbeats, absolute silence fell over the crowd. Then chaos erupted. Juniper moved instantly, driving her weapon into Dravax's unprotected knee joint, the weakness Prell had identified. The champion roared in pain and surprise, collapsing to one side. Juniper didn't stay to finish the fight. She sprinted toward the maintenance exit as alarms began blaring throughout the complex. Throughout the station, security doors slid open as emergency protocols tried to isolate the power failure. Instead, they created escape routes for the prepared fighters. Guards scrambled to respond, but without the neural control system, they faced a full-scale riot. Juniper met Prell at the designated junction. "How much time?" 2 minutes until backup. "Systems engage," the blue-skinned alien replied, leading her down a service corridor. They rendezvoused with Grax and Venny at the shuttle bay. Other fighters had already overpowered the minimal security and were commandeering vessels. "Which one?" Juniper asked, scanning the available ships. Grax pointed to a sleek courier vessel. "That one has the range to reach the Sol system." As they raced toward the ship, Juniper felt the neural collar around her neck pulse once, weakly attempting to reactivate. The lunar override was beginning to fade. "We need to move," she shouted, charging up the boarding ramp as their stolen ship burst. From the hangar, dozens of others did the same, scattering in all directions like a fireworks display. The confusion would buy them precious time before pursuit could be organized. Juniper took the pilot's seat, her engineering background giving her an edge with the alien controls. As they accelerated away from the station, she caught a glimpse of the Crimson Arena through the viewport, a massive structure now in disarray, internal explosions visible even from space, and beyond it, Earth's moon glowed with a faint red aura, a beacon guiding her home. "Thank you, Ezra," she whispered. "I'm coming home." Revolution's dawn. The stolen courier ship cut through space, its engines straining under Juniper's relentless push toward the Sol system. Earth's moon grew from a distant point of light to a detailed celestial body, its surface scarred with hegemony. Installations, yet still unmistakably humanity's ancient companion. The red glow had subsided, but occasional pulses suggested Ezra's override program continued its work. "Approaching lunar orbit," Juniper announced to her alien companions. "Ezra should be transmitting landing coordinates." As if on cue, the ship's communication system chirped with an incoming message, a string of numbers in an old Earth navigational format that no hegemony system would recognize. "Clever brother," Juniper murmured, inputting the coordinates manually. Prell glided to her side, silver eyes scanning the lunar surface. "The hegemony will have detected our approach. We have minutes at most before interceptors launch." "We won't need minutes," Juniper replied, guiding the ship toward the dark side of the moon where Earth's original research base, Lunar Station Alpha, remained hidden from the planet's view. The ship descended into a narrow ravine that sensors would struggle to penetrate, following it to a concealed hangar carved into the lunar rock decades before the invasion. As they landed, the hangar doors closed above them, sealing them in darkness before emergency lights activated along the floor. A lone figure waited by the airlock, thin and pale, but with eyes burning with the same determination as Juniper's. Ezra Reed had survived 2 years alone on humanity's most desolate outpost, sustained by purpose and the promise of reunion. When the ship's ramp descended, Juniper rushed forward, embracing her brother in a fierce hug that nearly toppled them, both in the low gravity. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually hacked the moon." Ezra laughed, the sound strange after so long without human conversation. "Technically, I repurposed existing infrastructure, but hacked the moon does have a better ring to it," he looked past her at the 3 alien figures descending the ramp, tensing slightly. "They're friends," Juniper assured him. "Without them, I wouldn't have made it out." Ezra nodded cautiously. "We need to move quickly. The lunar override bought us time, but the hegemony is already working to counter it. Follow me." He led them through a maze of corridors, some human-designed, others clearly modified with scavenged alien technology. The base was a testament to Ezra's ingenuity. Life support systems jury-rigged from incompatible parts, power rerouted from hegemony satellites, and walls covered with complex diagrams and code. They arrived at what had once been the station's command center, now transformed into a hacker's paradise. Dozens of screens displayed information from across the solar system, security feeds, communication channels, and system diagnostics, all hijacked from the unwitting hegemony. For 2 years I've been building backdoors into their network, Ezra explained, gesturing to the displays. The lunar array was just the beginning. I've infected every major hegemony installation in our system with dormant programs waiting for activation. You've been busy, Juniper said, impressed. While you were fighting in the arena, I was fighting in their systems, Ezra replied. But I needed you free before launching the final phase. I needed their attention divided. Grax studied the displays with professional interest. Your infiltration is impressive, but the hegemony's computational resources are vast. They will isolate and eliminate your intrusions given time. Time is exactly what we don't have, Ezra agreed, which is why we launch everything now. He moved to the central console, his fingers dancing across the interface. The hegemony believes Earth is subjugated, its people scattered and broken. They don't realize we've been organizing, waiting for this moment. One screen showed a map of Earth with hundreds of points of light, resistance cells activated by Ezra's signal. Another displayed the hegemony's orbital defense grid, its connections to the lunar network highlighted. What exactly is your plan? Venny asked, her feline features tense with anticipation. First, we use the lunar array to broadcast the truth about the Crimson Arena to every planet in the hegemony, Juniper explained, understanding her brother's strategy. Show them that their entertainment is built on slavery and suffering. Second, we activate resistance cells across Earth to target key hegemony control points, Ezra continued. And finally, he pressed a sequence of commands. We turn their own defense systems against them. Across the solar system, hegemony weapons, platforms suddenly reoriented, targeting their own command ships. Communication networks flooded with evidence of atrocities committed against conquered species. Transport gates used to move troops locked down, trapping reinforcements light years away. It won't defeat them, Ezra cautioned, but it will throw them into disarray long enough for Phase 2. Prell stepped forward. The other escaped fighters, they will spread word of this rebellion. More than that, Juniper said, her voice strong with newfound purpose. They'll bring evidence that the hegemony can be fought, that humanity found a way. On the screens, they watched as Earth stirred with coordinated rebellion. Cities long thought pacified erupted in resistance. Hidden human fleets emerged from the shadow of gas giants, striking at vulnerable hegemony positions. The hegemony conquered through fear and division, Ezra said. We'll liberate through unity, humans and aliens together, against those who would enslave us all. A proximity alarm blared, interrupting the moment of triumph. Hegemony forces had detected the base despite its concealment. They're coming, Grax warned, his stone skin shifting nervously. Juniper looked at her brother, then at her alien allies, former gladiators now transformed into revolutionaries. Then we'll be ready. This isn't just a jailbreak anymore. This is the beginning of a war. Ezra nodded, a grim smile forming on his face. From an auction block to leading a revolution, not bad for a couple of humans against an empire. As the first explosions rocked the lunar surface above them, Juniper activated the emergency defense systems Ezra had prepared. This battle might be just beginning, but for the first time since Earth's fall, humanity fought with hope, and they weren't fighting alone. On screens across the galaxy, the same message appeared in every known language. The hegemony is not invincible. Earth stands. The revolution has begun. And behind that message, unseen but essential, ran the code of a lone human hacker who had turned Earth's moon into the first beacon of liberation.